My 8-year-old son walked up to me with the iPad and said, "Daddy's friend is using bad words." That's when my entire marriage collapsed in real time. I was standing in my kitchen, still in the oversized t-shirt I'd slept in, stirring a cup of coffee that had already gone cold, when my son tugged on my sleeve and held up the iPad with both hands like he was presenting me with evidence at a trial. He was 8 years old. He had no idea what he was handing me. "Mommy," Eli said, his little brow all scrunched up the way it gets when something bothers him but he doesn't have the words for it yet. "Dad's friend Spicy Kitten 99 is using bad words in the chat. She keeps saying stuff I'm not allowed to say." I looked down at him. I looked at the iPad. I set my coffee mug down so carefully, so deliberately, like I already knew that the next few seconds were going to require every ounce of steadiness I had left in my body. And then I took the iPad from my son's hands, and my whole world cracked open from the inside. Let me back up, because you need to understand what the weeks leading up to that Thursday morning looked like, because none of this happened in a vacuum. Marriages don't just detonate. They erode. They hollow out slowly, quietly, in the spaces between dinner conversations and bedtime routines and the particular way a person stops reaching for your hand when you're walking through a parking lot. My name is Claire. I'm 34 years old. I was married for 9 years to a man named Derek, tall, sandy-haired, the kind of handsome that photographs well at family reunions. We had Eli, our son, our bright, curious, Lego-obsessed little boy who thinks dinosaurs and video games are the two greatest things mankind has ever produced. We had a house in a suburb I genuinely liked. We had a life that, from the outside, looked exactly the way a life is supposed to look. From the inside, for the last 4 months, it had felt like living with a stranger who happened to know where we kept the spare keys. Derek had been distant. That's the word I kept using in my own head, because distant felt safer than the other words that were circling, the ones I wasn't ready to say out loud yet. He stopped asking about my day. He started working late on Tuesdays and Thursdays, which was new, which was a change in pattern, but which he explained away so smoothly, so easily, that I felt embarrassed for even noticing. He'd started sleeping with his phone face down on the nightstand and taking it into the bathroom with him in the morning. I checked. Of course I checked. I'm not proud of it, but I'm also not going to pretend I didn't. I went through his messages while he was in the shower one morning, my hands shaking, my stomach in absolute freefall. There was nothing. No deleted threads, no hidden apps, no second phone number. His Instagram was boring and public. His Facebook hadn't been touched in 2 years. His WhatsApp was nothing but a group chat with his brothers about fantasy football. I told myself I was paranoid. I told myself the distance was stress. He'd mentioned his job was getting complicated. There was some reshuffling happening in his department. I told myself that 9 years of marriage sometimes just felt like this, like two people circling each other in a house, familiar and invisible at the same time. I told myself a lot of things. And then my 8-year-old handed me an iPad and burned every single one of those stories to the ground. Eli plays Roblox on the shared family iPad. This is a completely unremarkable fact about our household. He's been playing it for about a year. He loves the building games. He's proud of the little virtual worlds he constructs. Derek set up a family account for him, helped him pick a username, made sure the parental settings were on. Good dad stuff. Attentive dad stuff. Except Derek had also quietly set up his own Roblox account on the same iPad, logged into the same app, and his account had a direct messaging inbox that Eli, bless him, my literal guardian angel of a child, had stumbled into by accident while trying to find a friend's game invite. I stood in my kitchen and I opened Derek's Roblox message thread with a user called Spicy Kitten 99. I read for 4 minutes, maybe 5. I'm not sure. Time got strange and elastic and wrong. The messages went back 11 weeks. 11 weeks of a 23-year-old woman named, and I would find this out later, Jade, who worked in Derek's department, messaging my husband through a children's video game because they both thought it was genius. They thought it was invisible. They thought no adult woman with a mortgage and a kid and a life would ever, in a million years, think to look inside a Roblox inbox. For full version, follow on-screen instructions. They coordinated hotel rooms. They talked about specific things they'd done together that I will not repeat here, but that I promise you were explicit enough that they would have been deeply, catastrophically inappropriate for my son to read, and that's before we even get to the emotional content. The pet names, the I miss you, the she doesn't even notice anymore, the just a little longer and we can figure this out. She doesn't even notice anymore. I read that line 3 times. I felt the heat rising up from my chest into my throat and behind my eyes, and I gripped the edge of the kitchen counter with one hand and I just breathed. Because Eli was still standing right there, watching me with those big careful eyes, sensing that something had shifted in the atmospheric pressure of the room. Go play in your room. bedroom, baby, I said. My voice came out completely level. I genuinely do not know how. Is something wrong, Mommy? Everything is fine. Go play. He went. I stood in my kitchen for 30 seconds after he left, completely still, the iPad in my hands, 11 weeks of messages glowing on the screen. Then I sat down at the kitchen table and I read every single one of them from the beginning. Here's what nobody tells you about the moment you discover your spouse is cheating. People always describe it as devastating, as heartbreaking, as gutting, and yes, eventually, it is all of those things. But in the immediate moment, for me, it wasn't grief. It was clarity. Like something that had been out of focus for 4 months had suddenly, brutally snapped into sharp relief. Every canceled dinner, every I'm tired, every turned away back in the dark. It all made sense now, assembled itself into a perfect, horrible picture, and the picture was so clear that I almost laughed. Almost. I didn't confront him. He wasn't even home. He'd left for work at 7:30, same as always, kissed me on the cheek, ruffled Eli's hair, walked out the door like a man with absolutely nothing to hide, because he thought his secrets were buried inside a children's game that his wife would never touch. I sat with the iPad, and I thought. And then, slowly, a thought arrived that was so calm and so precise and so completely different from anything I expected to feel that it almost scared me. I'm going to answer her. Wait, it gets worse. For him. I opened Derek's Roblox chat with Spicy Kitten 99. My hands had stopped shaking entirely, which, if I'm being honest, was the most frightening thing about the next 10 minutes, the total, surgical calm I felt as I started to type. I wrote, using Derek's account, in Derek's name. Something happened. Claire found out. I can't explain everything right now. I need you to meet me. The Rusty Anchor on 5th, you know the place. 30 minutes. Bring your things, I'm not going back to the house. I stared at what I'd typed. I added one more line. I'm serious. This is it. Come now. I hit send. Then I put the iPad down on the kitchen table, walked upstairs to our bedroom, and opened Derek's closet. There is something almost meditative about packing someone's belongings in trash bags when you're furious. The repetition of it. Shirts, yanked from hangers, stuffed down into black plastic. His dress pants. His gym clothes. The ridiculous collection of baseball caps he'd been accumulating since college. I didn't fold anything. I want to be clear about that. I didn't fold a single item. I pulled and shoved and packed with the focused efficiency of a woman who has made a decision and is not interested in second-guessing it. For trash bags for clothes. His good watch was on the dresser. I left it. Some distant, merciful part of me noted that the watch had been a gift from his father and that his father hadn't done anything wrong. Then I went downstairs to the living room. Derek's gaming PC. This thing was his pride. I knew exactly how much he'd spent because I had seen the credit card statement and we'd had a whole conversation about it. $4,000 building it. Custom case, RGB lighting, the works. He talked about this computer the way other men talk about their firstborn children. I looked at it for a long moment. Then I got the last trash bag. I want to be honest with you, I was careful. I wrapped the tower itself in a blanket first, put it in the bag with some padding. I'm not a monster, but it was going in the bag. Everything was going in the bag. Loading my car took 3 trips. By the time I was done, I was sweating through my t-shirt and my arms ached and I felt more alive than I had in 4 months. Eli was in his room with his headphones on, deep in some building project, unbothered. I knocked on his door. Hey, monkey, I have to run a quick errand. Mrs. Patterson next door is going to listen out for you, okay? I'll be back in 20 minutes. He pulled one headphone off. Can you get snacks? Absolutely, I said. I kissed the top of his head. I walked downstairs, picked up the car keys, and drove to the Rusty Anchor on 5th. I need you to picture this bar. It's the kind of place that opens at 11 in the morning and means it. Neon signs in the window. Sticky floor. The smell of old beer baked permanently into the walls. It is not a romantic location. It is not a place where you'd meet someone if the situation was good. It is, however, the bar that Derek and his coworkers went to for happy hours, which is how I knew Jade would know exactly where it was. I pulled into the parking lot. She was already there. I had never seen her in person before, but I knew her from the photo Derek had in his work contacts, which I'd found during my original paranoid phone check months ago and thought nothing of at the time. 23 years old. Long dark hair. She was standing on the sidewalk in front of the bar with a rolling suitcase, an actual rolling suitcase, and a tote bag over one shoulder, squinting at her phone. She had brought her bags. She had packed a bag and driven to a dive bar because a message on Roblox told her to. I want to be generous here. I want to say that she was young, and that she may not have known the full picture of our marriage, and that Derek had almost certainly told her whatever version of events made made him look least terrible. I want to give her the benefit of the doubt. I also want to tell you what happened next. I pulled up to the curb. I popped my trunk. I got out of my car, still in my sleep shirt, hair not done, 0% interested in how I looked, and I started pulling trash bags out of my trunk and setting them on the sidewalk. She stared at me. What? Who are you? I'm Claire, I said pleasantly. Derek's wife. A silence that I will remember for the rest of my life. I'm returning his things, I continued, setting the last bag down. He won't be able to pick them up from the house. So this seemed easier. Her face cycled through approximately 6 emotions in 4 seconds. Confusion, recognition, horror, something that might have been the beginning of anger. Then a kind of pale, nauseated understanding. He's not coming, is he? She said. It wasn't really a question. I genuinely have no idea what Derek is doing right now, I said honestly. He doesn't know any of this has happened yet. He's at work, or wherever he actually goes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I smiled at her. It was not a warm smile. That's between you two. I got back in my car. She said something behind me. I heard her voice rise, start to form words, but I had already put the car in drive, and I want to be honest, I turned the radio up. Not because I was scared to hear her, because I simply no longer had any interest in what she had to say. I drove out of the parking lot, and I called my sister. My sister Maya picked up on the second ring, the way she always does, and I said, I need you to come over, and the tone of my voice was apparently enough because she said I'm already getting my keys, and hung up without asking a single question. That's the person you want in your corner when your life detonates. Not someone who asks for details first. Someone who grabs their keys. I stopped at a gas station and bought Eli the snacks I promised him, Cheez-Its and a fruit pouch because I'm still a mother and some things don't pause for personal catastrophe, and I drove home and I sat in the driveway for exactly 2 minutes before I went back inside. Derek called at 12:47 p.m. I let it go to voicemail. He called again at 12:49. Then a text. Hey, did something happen with my Roblox? I can't log in. I sat with that text for a long moment. The sheer mundane absurdity of it. The did something happen with my Roblox as the first sign he had that his entire double life had just been detonated. Maya arrived at 1:15. She walked in, took one look at my face, and said, what did he do? I showed her the iPad. She read for about 90 seconds and then set the iPad down very carefully on the coffee table and said, in an extremely controlled voice, Claire, where are his things? The rusty anchor on 5th. She stared at me. I may have also sent a message from his Roblox account to Jade telling her to meet him there, I added. The longest pause. Was she there? Maya asked. With a rolling suitcase, I confirmed. My sister looked at me for another second. Then she said, you absolute legend, and burst into tears. And we sat on the couch and cried together for about 40 minutes while Eli played upstairs, blissfully unaware that the architecture of our family had just been completely redesigned. Derek came home at 6:30. He walked in and I was sitting at the kitchen table with a mug of tea and a lawyer's name and number written on a notepad in front of me. My mother had taken Eli for the night. Maya was in the next room. He looked at the empty space in the living room where his gaming setup used to be. He looked at me. He looked at the notepad. Claire, he started. Don't, I said quietly. Whatever you're about to say, the explanation, the version of this that makes it complicated, the thing about how it didn't mean anything or how I wasn't paying attention or how this is somehow a story about both of us, I don't want it. I've been sitting here for 7 hours and I have had every possible version of this conversation in my head and I do not want any of them. His jaw worked. Where are my things? A parking lot on 5th. I'd move quickly if you want the PC. It might rain tonight. He stood there in the doorway of his own kitchen, and I watched him understand that this was not the beginning of a conversation. That I was not a woman who needed to scream at him or throw things or demand answers tonight. That I had already, methodically, in his absence, using a children's game as my weapon, made decisions that could not be undone. You sent those messages, he said, on Roblox. I did. She called me. She was actually at the bar, Claire, with her. I know, I said. I was there. Another silence. The particular silence of a man who has run completely out of road. I'll get a hotel, he said finally. Good idea, I said. He left. I picked up my tea. I heard Maya exhale from the next room. Outside, the first drops of rain started tapping against the kitchen window, and I thought, distantly, about the gaming PC in a trash bag in a parking lot, and I felt absolutely nothing except, perhaps, the faintest, most guilty flicker of satisfaction. That was 4 days ago. I've spoken to the lawyer. I've told Eli, age appropriately, that Daddy is going to be staying somewhere else for a while, and he accepted this with the pragmatic resilience of a child who trusts that his mother has things handled. I've eaten more takeout than I probably should have. I've cried exactly twice, really cried, the ugly kind, both times in the shower where nobody could hear me. Jade, apparently, has not responded well to the revelation that there is no plan, that there is no figuring it out. That Derek had simply been lying to both of us simultaneously with the architectural confidence of a man who believed a Roblox inbox was an impenetrable vault. I know this because Derek left a voicemail, not asking to come home, not apologizing, but complaining, in an exhausted voice, that things were complicated and that he needed to talk. I have not called back. I am not interested in complicated. I lived in complicated for 4 months without even knowing it. I thought I was being paranoid. I thought I was the problem. I walked around my own house feeling vaguely guilty for noticing things, for clocking the distance, for sensing that something was wrong, because every time I looked for evidence, his phone was clean and I told myself I was broken and suspicious and unfair. Turns out I was just looking in the wrong app. My son found the truth in a children's video game. An 8-year-old with a Lego obsession blew up a 9-year marriage by walking up to his mother and saying Dad's friend is using bad words. Eli got extra screen time this week. He has absolutely no idea why, and he has asked 0 questions. So here's where I'm leaving it, at least for tonight. I'm sitting at this same kitchen table, tea gone cold again, and I'm asking the internet, the only witness I have right now who didn't have a stake in any of this. Was I wrong to send that message? Was I wrong to pack his things and leave them on a curb next to a woman who showed up with a suitcase because she believed a Roblox chat over 9 years of marriage? Was I wrong to let him walk into his own kitchen and read the ending of our marriage off a notepad without giving him a single chance to explain? Or did he make every single one of these choices the moment he opened a children's video game and typed her name? You tell me.
If you have made it this far and want to see more videos like this, then kindly subscribe and turn on notifications so you may never miss another story like this.